Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to Sunny Side of the Dome. Sunny Side of the Dome is presented to you by Jays from the Couch. We stream live Thursdays at 7 p.m. on Jays from the Couch's YouTube channel. You can also catch us if you follow us on Facebook or Twitter. There's the link there. You can get notified and you can follow along on either of those social media platforms. And if you like the content here at Sunny Side of the Dome, there's lots more where that came from. So there's Jays from the Couch's main podcast, which now that the regular season has officially started, is moving to Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And that's hosted by Jays from the Couch's founder, Sean Doyle. Sean always does a great job with the podcast, running it, and having guests on, making it very interesting that way, whether it's one or two of us fellow coachers sharing our different opinions or different things. It can be bloggers who cover other MLB teams. It can be people like Keegan Matheson, Shai Davidi, who actually cover the Blue Jays for a living and get paid to do these amazing things, or sometimes even Blue Jays players or prospects. A while back, for example, he had Jordan Romano, who was nice enough to come on. So that's very interesting. Be sure to check it out if you haven't been. And if you missed the live show of the main podcast, that is also available anywhere you get anywhere you get podcasts as an audio version. So Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, any decent podcast has the Jays from the Couch nowadays. And the other show, that's not even a new show anymore. I can't talk about it that way because it's been on for a while. The Unfeck Circle, hosted by Steve Feck. That's Tuesday evenings, and actually starting this coming week, it's going to a new time. It'll be 6 p.m. Eastern Time rather than 7. We don't want to conflict with any games in progress, obviously, because we're fans, and the main thing we want to do is actually watch the games. So Steve is great. He's so smart. He knows so many different things. He has such unique perspectives about things. He'll make you laugh. He'll entertain and inform, and you might not always agree with him, but he's definitely worth a watch and a listen. So make sure you check that out. All right. Happy opening day, Blue Jay fans and baseball fans everywhere. It's sure exciting. I bet a lot of you were excited. I know I sure as heck am and was and still am after that amazing game. So we'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, I mean, this is what we wait for during the off season, over the winter. It's cold out, our sport isn't playing, and things are going on. There's free agent signings, there's trades, that depending on which teams you like. Sometimes there's more of those, sometimes there's less, but there's that. But it's all in anticipation of the opening day bell, and that was today for most teams. Unfortunately, a couple of teams had their games postponed for different reasons. One was weather, one unfortunately has some positive COVID tests. So all the best to everybody there. Hope everybody gets well ASAP, and they can get back to playing. Health first, but games certainly once there is health. Yeah. So before I get started and talk about today's game and about the state of the team in general, some housekeeping things, some transactions, which most of us have probably already heard. So as no surprise, unfortunately, there were certain players that were put on the injured list, the 10-day injured list to start the season. So George Springer, even though it kind of went down to the wire and he did travel with the Jays, he is in New York with the Jays to start the season. And it was sort of a last minute thing, and they decided he wasn't quite ready to go. And honestly, with a grade 2 oblique strain, from what I'm learning about that sort of thing, I'm really glad that they're erring on the side of caution. I want to see George Springer play for the Blue Jays as much as any Jays fan does, but I want him to be healthy. I want him to play the majority of the season and be healthy and be the George Springer that the Jays went out and signed in the offseason. So I do not want him rushing himself back and not being 100%, not playing well, and what could be worse, possibly re-aggravating the injury and having to miss a lot more time. So please, George, rest, get better, and come play for us when you're truly ready. So there's that. Robbie Ray, unfortunately, also starting the season on the 10-day injured list. He still has the bruised left elbow, unfortunately. So see how long that takes to get better. Hopefully it won't be all that long. Again, we want him back when he's healthy. But because he was just having such an outstanding spring, and we really want him back to be that pitcher. We really need him. The rotation is definitely an area that the Jays need help, and they need quality help. So hopefully it won't be all that long. And Steve, don't forget to share your comments and questions with Karen. Thank you very much, Steve. You're always so great at the input and all of that. You're a fantastic teammate, coachmate, so supportive. So yes, I'm definitely interested in comments and questions. If anybody's watching live and anybody has something that you'd like to add, absolutely, very interested in that. So yes, Kirby Gates, no surprise, we all know that he had Tommy John surgery, and basically he's done for the season. He was only put on the 10-day injured list, so essentially anytime the Jays want to add someone to the 40-man roster, be that an external acquisition, if there's still a free agent out there that they want to sign, if they want to trade for someone, or if they feel that one of their prospects is worth promoting and adding to the roster, someone who isn't already on the roster, you've got a very easy move right there because he's done for the year anyway. Nate Pearson, unfortunately, I don't think there's a timetable yet for his return. He's still working his way back, as is fellow pitching prospect Thomas Hatch. So yeah, whenever we can get one or both of those guys back, that should definitely help. Again, knock on wood, they've got to be healthy to contribute and perform in that way. So they added a couple of people, and I actually spent a majority of last week's episode talking about the roster crunch and what I thought was going to happen. So looks like I got a few things right, not 100%. Nobody bats 1,000, as they say. But they did end up keeping Joe Panik to be the utility man off the bench for the infield, with George Springer going on the injured list to start the season. Jonathan Davis made the team. I'm not happy to lose George Springer, but I'm elated, ecstatic that Jonathan Davis has made this team. I really like Jonathan Davis. I really like his skill set. He's an excellent defensive outfielder. He's a fast runner. When he gets on base, he can run, he can steal you a base. Like he's really got some terrific skills, and I really think his skill set is complementary to that of a lot of the other Blue Jays who are kind of more sluggers and all of that. So it was great to see Davis. Something else that I predicted correctly, fortunately. Alejandro Kirk, they kept him. I'm really happy with what they've done so far and the direction that they seem to be going in that, to me, it looks like they're evaluating the talent they've got and they're trying to put the better players together on this team. And so, I mean, they kept Alejandro Kirk. That's great. Reese McGuire was out of options, so he was one of two players who were designated for assignment, along with infielder Breivik Valera. So they will be off the 40-man roster. Either another team will claim them, or if they go unclaimed, then the Jays could keep them in the organization in the minors as non-roster players. And And then there's that. So, yeah, all the best of luck to the two of them, wherever they may end up, whether they stay or whether they end up going elsewhere. Tim Meza as well, another guy that I watched him in the spring and I followed his outings, and to me, he looked very dominant. He seems like you hear about pitchers who have had Tommy John surgery, that very often what happens is if they heal, if they're in the good category of the guys that can work their way back and be successful, that sometimes they end up throwing harder and being that much more dominant. Meza, to me, has looked very, very sharp. So I'm very glad that they found room for him on the team. He was the other one they had to find a 40-man spot for him, and they did with the DFA of McGuire as well as Valera. They added Joe Panic and Tim Meza. And to my surprise, Francisco Liriano actually didn't make the team. I thought he was pretty much a lock. I thought they'd go with the veteran, someone that they knew from before, but no, I guess he wasn't going to make the team, and he did have an opt-out, and so the Jays actually granted him his release. So Francisco Liriano, all the best to you wherever you end up. And and then the other pitcher that I thought would make the team is AJ Cole. AJ Cole for now is actually part of the taxi squad. He too has an opt-out, but I believe that's not until May the 15th. So I guess they decided to keep him around for a while longer and see what happens, see if they feel like they need him. And so it's interesting that the roster to start the year. Of course, as we know, there will be changes. Knock on wood, in sports, there's always injuries, and something happens. Somebody doesn't perform very well. So at some point, someone will end up needing to be replaced, and they'll shuffle the roster again. But this is what it looks like to start off with. And honestly, I don't think it's such a bad thing. So in a moment, onto the heart of tonight's order, which is opening day and today's game. Excuse me a moment. All right, so I booked a vacation day for today. I don't know about any other Jays fans. If you had the opportunity to do that, maybe some of you did. I was just so excited to watch the game at 1 o'clock this afternoon, season opener at Yankee Stadium. So many people, so many prognosticators are picking the Yankees because of their pitching and because of their whole team, really, that they see them as very strong top to bottom. Many people have got the Yankees winning the American League in 2021, going to the World Series. Some people think they'll win it, some people don't. But I mean, this is quite a test for the Blue Jays off the bat, because if they're serious about taking steps forward in 2021 and they really want to be contenders, well, this is one of the teams that they've got to beat. And I mean, I'm very active on Twitter, and I follow different people, and of course everybody's different and entitled to their opinions, and some people are very pessimistic and thought for sure that the Jays just didn't have the pitching and they were going to get swept by the Yankees. Well, I guess at the very least, that's not going to happen. That didn't happen. So now I'm hoping they at least win the series, and who knows, we'll see about the next couple of games. Unfortunate, after having such a nice game today, that they have a day off after one day playing, so they don't even play tomorrow, and hopefully it won't slow their momentum, as they say. But so their ace against our ace. Hyun-Jin Ryu for the Jays and Garrett Cole for the Yankees, two guys who everybody knows that they're the number one starter. They're the ace on those teams. They were both big free agent signings, Ryu for the Jays and Cole for the Yankees. And they actually had very similar looking lines, each pitcher going 5 1/3 innings and giving up 2 runs. So that's pretty decent, because in each of them were facing a pretty strong opposing lineup of hitters. So, I mean, they did what they could be really reasonably expected to do. There were some good performances from the Jays, some good hitting performances. Teoscar Hernandez, 3 for 4, including an absolute no-doubter home run that tied the game. The Jays were down 2-1 at the time, and he made it a time game. And this, just beautiful thing out to left field there. So that was great to see. And the Jays bullpen, after we use 5 1/3 innings, they pitched. The game ended up going 10 innings for anybody who didn't know, and the Jays won in 10 innings by a final score of 3-2. So the Jays bullpen of Phelps, DeLeese, Romano, Merriweather, and Tyler Chatwood, they combined to keep the powerful Bronx Bombers off the scoreboard. Hooray! So exciting for a Jays fan to see that they can be that dominant. Hopefully, one thing to watch for over the season is in 2020. Part of the reason the Jays had success is that the bullpen that they had with a lot of these same guys, they were so good so early, and I think they all just got so overused because the starters weren't going deep into games, and I just think that a lot of those bullpen arms really, really burned out as they got more into the season, and they were just so overworked and overused. So one thing to watch for this season, because we've already used 5 relief pitchers in game 1. So hopefully some starters will go deeper into games. Hopefully they'll be effective enough to go in deeper into games, and hopefully it's something that management will allow. There was a lot of talk about how starting pitchers were used last year. Some of my colleagues at Jays from the Couch seem to think that this is a permanent change in their strategy, and I hope they're wrong, and honestly, I don't see it that way. I never really did. I thought their usage was very 2020 specific to those whole circumstances, the spring training, the shutdown, the restarts, and I just feel like they were very concerned about pitcher usage. So, but we'll see as we get into the season how it all plays out. Hello, Alex Chow. Any concerns about Kevin's throwing arm at third base, given his seeming low ball tosses to first on opening day? Visions of Russ Adams at shortstop 15 years ago comes to mind. Unfair comparison? I don't know, maybe not. Alex, thank you for the question, by the way. I don't know. I mean, it's a little early, although we did see Biggio in spring training as well. I don't think, if you're just looking at the raw tools and all the third basemen across Major League Baseball, I don't think Biggio's arm is ever going to be rated the strongest in that way. So I think you might have a point, and hopefully that doesn't turn into a big issue. I mean, to me, Kevin Biggio, he's a player that I like very, very, very much, and one of the things I really like about him is his smarts. He is such a smart player, and when he sees an issue, he'll do everything that he can to work around it, whether it's positioning, whether it's trying to release the ball a little bit earlier, that sort of thing. So I'm hopeful that he's going to find a way to adjust to it, and that his defense, that it won't be an issue type of thing. It's kind of unfortunate because Vladimir Guerrero Jr., that's one thing that he's really got that Kevin Biggio doesn't have as much. In terms of the raw skills, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has a very strong throwing arm. So it's kind of unfortunate that, at least for now, and maybe for the majority of the time, it's been decided that he isn't really going to be the third baseman, that he's going to play first. So anyway, Lars Nelson, why do you think Kevin Biggio was not the leadoff hitter today? For that matter, why wouldn't they start Davis and lead him off? Okay, a couple of good questions there. I mean, that might be something that develops as the season goes on. We know that Kevin Biggio has been, in his major league career, someone with a very good on-base percentage. His walk rate it's almost silly. And I think for me, at the very least, while George Springer is on the injured list, I think if it was up to me, I might lead Kevin Biggio off rather than Marcus Semien. I don't have Semien's career on-base percentage numbers in front of me. I wish I did for comparison purposes. I'm not really sure what Montoya was thinking there, whether he just prefers to have a veteran in that role and thinks he'll do a better job getting on base. I'm not really sure. And then part two of the question, why wouldn't they start Davis and lead him off? I mean, as I said, I really like Jonathan Davis. I like what he brings to the table. Up until, I guess, last year and this year so far, his hitting at the major league level in a very, very small sample size really hasn't been that great. So I'm not sure that the Blue Jays look at him as a starting outfielder as long as you have Randall Grichuk, Teoscar Hernandez, and Lourdes Gurriel Jr., as long as the three of them are all healthy and playing, that Davis probably won't be starting most days. That's my opinion. Maybe they'll give one of them a day off here or there. But yeah, I mean, I love Davis for his speed and ability to run the bases, as we saw today. And he actually hit pretty well in spring training last year and this year, and in a very small sample size last year in the regular season. He also hit much better than he had. So I don't know if he's a bit of a late bloomer with the bat. And honestly, I hope they give him a long enough look that, they can really determine maybe he's someone that they can keep around and use in a situation like they had today where they needed a pinch runner. Only one game, but did you see promise in Merriweather's approach? Oh, yeah. To the save situation and the command he had of his pitches. Darn right I did. And I think pretty much every other Blue Jay fan would pretty much have to agree. How could you not? I mean, he comes in a save situation in Yankees Stadium, facing some pretty good hitters of theirs, and 3 strikeouts, one run lead, and you watch him out there on the mound, and he didn't seem the slightest bit phased. And Julian Merriweather is someone, he has amazing tools. If he can stay healthy, knock on wood, because he's had some issues throughout his career so far. He had the Tommy John, and then he's dealt with some back issues and things like that. But if he can stay healthy, his fastball in the high 90s, the difference in the speed between his fastball and changeup. I mean, his changeup, I think today was 80, they were saying, and then he's got a slider. Like this guy is a real weapon. So I'm excited about him. Yeah, so terrific game today. And I was really excited by what I saw. And some of what stood out for me, for one thing, the defense. Only one game again, but around the horn, they just look so much better as a team than they did last season. I mean, last season, on any given day, cue the clown music, and it pains me to say that as a diehard fan, but their defense at times was just so bad last year. They were almost lucky in a way to have the record that they did and grab a playoff spot in the expanded format, because their fundamentals weren't good. Well, so far, very, very early, one game, it looks like they've really been working on it. Their defense, in so many ways, was just so much better than it had been last year. And if they're going to seriously take any steps forward this year and beyond this season, that's one of the things they had to improve. So far, good job. And I mean, the interesting thing that they've lost George Springer for the time being, and yet his replacements, if you will, Randall Grichuk, if George Springer is playing, Randall Grichuk is someone who might spend some time possibly at DH, but he might be on the bench some of the time, because over the past couple of seasons, Gurriel and Hernandez have really gone past his achievements in terms of their hitting at the very least. So Randall Grichuk, once George Springer and everyone else is healthy, he might not necessarily play every day. And As far as Jonathan Davis, I hope they'll find a way to keep him, but he's someone with the four of them healthy, four outfielders for three positions. He's somebody with a minor league option that could find himself on the taxi squad or in AAA. Well, extra innings, your runner on second, and that was Jonathan Davis. Great move to pinch hit for what would have been, or pinch run, for what would have been Rowdy Tellez on second base. Randall Grichuk with the big hit. Jonathan Davis with his speed runs around, scores what ends up being the winning run. And I think even when guys go down, knock on wood, and within reason, that there are other guys, that there's other talent on this team, other guys that can fill in. Also, you look at Kirby Gates. I mean, the Jays signed him as a veteran, someone who's been a closer in his career, and no doubt that's what he was brought in for. And before he ever gets to throw a pitch for the Jays in a meaningful game, he's lost for the season. But no matter, so far, it's early, but I mean, they've got other guys. They've got Jordan Romano. They've got Julian Merriweather. My colleague at Jays from the Couch, Steve Feck, he seems to think that the two of them, that could actually be something very special this year, a very special tandem out of the bullpen. And you know what? This is one of those times, it doesn't happen all that often, but this is one of those times when I think I agree with Feck. I think he's onto something there. I think that's some real talent that the Jays have. Hopefully they can stay healthy. That's kind of been a theme. Well, that is a theme throughout sports. And speaking of Steve, hi, if the Blue Jays can win the first few series, would you recommend the front office keeping Springer on the injured list for the entire month rather than sooner? I mean, again, that depends on him. That depends on how he's doing health-wise, because, George Springer, let's not forget, he's a star player, and the Jays are paying him $150 million. So when George Springer is healthy and can come back and really contribute, then I want to see him active and I want to see him playing. What I don't want is anybody rushing him back. And from what I've kind of been hearing is that Springer himself, he's got this high tolerance to pain. He's very competitive. He signed this big contract. He really wants to go out there and play and help the Blue Jays win and earn that money. And if anything, it's management that kind of had to put the brakes on and say, no, we really need to do what's best for you, because in the long run, that's what's best for the team. And so, I hope they keep him out as long as his health dictates. Let's put it that way. Excuse me a moment. So, strong game for the Jays, 3-2 win, good pitching, good defense, timely hitting when they needed it, and all's well that ends well, and hope they have lots of others that are like that. One of the things, if you happen to follow me on Twitter, one of the things you've probably seen that I like to do is I run polls, and most of the polls that I run have something to do with the Jays and or baseball in general. And today I was asking, after kind of inspired by today's game, do you like the rule that they've had for last year and this year, that when a game goes to extra innings, that it starts with each team as starting the half inning with a runner on second? And the last time I checked, before going on the air, I'd gotten 93 votes. 40% said yes, and 60% said no. Honestly, I have to agree with the majority there. Even though it got the Blue Jays, it really helped get the Blue Jays a win today, obviously, and having that runner, and that runner being Jonathan Davis. But overall, I don't know, maybe a lot of my baseball views are a little bit old school, but I don't really think that's the way the game is played or should be played. And anyway, however, on that note, we're coming to the end of today's show, which means it's time for 3 Blue Jays colored glasses. So my thoughts for today has to do with the team and the 2021 season. As I've been talking about, I really think that I really like the team that they've assembled. I remember a team from years ago, one of the years, I believe 1998, when the Yankees won the World Series, and I remember going through position by position, and for 6 out of 9 positions, I actually liked the Blue Jays starting position players better than I like the Yankees, but what the Yankees had that the Blue Jays didn't have back then was depth, because as soon as your first string, something happened and they went on at the time they called it the disabled list. Anytime that happened, the guys that you had backing up just, they really weren't getting it done. The Yankees had that. They had bench players that could be starting players on a lot of other teams, and that was part of what helped them win a World Series. I like the 2021 Toronto Blue Jays team. I like the first string, but I also like the depth that they have built. And I think some of that depth really helped show itself today and helped get the win today. As I was mentioning, Jonathan Davis, Merriweather, in roles that they might not necessarily have had, looking at the team on paper in the offseason before any of the injuries. So I really like this team. I really like the way it's constructed. For anybody who doesn't think this is a playoff team, well, I agree to disagree with you. I really think that they're taking a step forward this year, not necessarily as World Series champions, though if they can pull that out, that would be great. But I think they're a playoff team. I think they're a better playoff team than they were last year. So that means they're at least going to win one game. And onward and upward. It's going to be exciting to see for several more years. On that note, I think that wraps things up for tonight. So thank you very much for tuning in and for all of the great questions and comments. Let's go Blue Jays, and see you again next week.